I think we should establish right from the outset that these are emails we received over several weeks. We've sent them off to Shellharbour Council for answers in their entirety. We haven't edited them at all. And Mayor Kelly Marsh has kindly agreed to come and answer our questions. So this first one is from Terry Sue, email from Terry Sue. I'd like to know why, since the administrator has left, has council decided that our parks are not for playing? The grass is not being mowed. I live opposite Fred Ball Park in Franklin Place, Albion Park. We used to have the park, which we take pride in, mowed every week in summer. Now we do not get it mowed unless we ring, and then council turns up within half an hour. Are they sitting around waiting for a phone call? They then come and mow knee-high grass and leave it all laying around to rot. Not a pretty sight. We used to have mothers' playgroups using the park, but that's no longer possible. We also have a reserve at the end of Franklin Place, which has not been mowed for months. The rain is not to blame, and I will not accept rain as an answer. Whilst driving around, I am noticing that the same problem is occurring in many, if not all, of our parks and playgrounds. Mayor won't accept the rain. What explanation can you give?
Well, first of all, to Terry Sue, I think she's rightfully so with everything that she's saying in her letter. And as a mum myself, I've certainly noticed the grass getting a lot higher in a lot of parks and playgrounds. And look, it is unacceptable. But unfortunately, we have had the Illawarra Noxious Weeds Authority find some Parramatta grass, or a lot of Parramatta grass, in a number of locations right across Shellharbour City. Now sadly this is a noxious weed and we've had to put in place a program to obviously spray right across the city to get rid of this noxious weed. Now the grass obviously isn't mowed prior to it being sprayed, and sadly, and I'm sorry Terry Sue, but with the rain it has put off that program. So in a number of locations across the city, sadly the grass has been left for that reason. But now we've got this good weather coming, I've been assured that this will be attended to straight away. One of the reserves that she did mention there was, I think it was Fred Ball Reserve, that has been mowed in the last 7 days. It is certainly not acceptable or needed for residents to ring up when there's issues, even though we love them too, but our staff are certainly not waiting to be proactive for a phone call. So what I have done, because I do think there were some very good points brought up in this, I've called on a briefing for all councillors and community from our General Manager. So what we can do is sit down with members of the public and basically go through it together, our mowing schedules and what we do with our parks and reserves, and get some direct feedback from our residents so we can improve the service.
Great, I think that will in some way answer the next question, which comes from Lynn W63. Why, when the council lawn maintenance workers cut the grass along the footpath along Shellharbour Road, do they not trim the edges as well between Ocean Beach Drive and the 7-Eleven garage? My husband and I walk 3 or 4 evenings a week. We find that the grass gets mowed, but the edges don't get trimmed. There's barely enough walking room along the path for both of us. Many other people walk along the footpath as well.
Because we have had such a large backlog, obviously, with the weather and other unforeseen circumstances, we have put off the edging, quite frankly, as a lesser priority to mowing the grass. We have had a number of reports throughout our supposed summer across the city about a lot of snakes and things, so it is more of a priority at the moment to get that grass cut, but the edging will be done in the next cycle of mowing starting or commencing this week.
And that's something that can be covered in that briefing as well that you were talking about before?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's go to our next one from 1Suze2. I read of a huge maintenance backlog in Shellharbour. Why was this allowed to happen, and is the council doing anything about it?
Well, that's a very good question, and that's something I've been working on since I took power in September. Why did it happen? Quite frankly, I don't know. There's a lot of councils right throughout New South Wales that do have a large maintenance backlog. The way I look at it, our infrastructure, we're a very asset-rich city, and unless we preserve and look after and maintain our assets and our values are obviously going to dwindle. And we owe it to the ratepayers as a council to make sure that we spend the money that needs to be spent to make sure that those assets get back up to standard for the community. So what we have done, we have applied for $3 million through the state government's Infrastructure and Renewal Scheme fund, and that money will be going straight into services in our city and renewing infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is a number of things, from roads, of course, to buildings, amenities blocks and sports fields. So I think it's $131 million that we have to find and spend. So that issue, I think, has been left alone for too long, and even though it is obviously quite a huge task and a big issue, this current council will not shy away. So that is something that we are working on. I've had a number of talks with the Minister of the Illawarra and the member for Kiama, Gareth Ward, to see what we can do to obviously lock down some of those figures and get our infrastructure back up to standard.
Hopefully that $3 million is a start.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, we're still a long way off, but with good planning and with good management, we can do it.
Let's go to Shantae 2000. When is the Mayoress New Year's party coming back?
Now I get this one quite often. Well, to start with, we don't have a mayoress anymore.
No.
But the mayoress's Christmas party originally used to be just after Christmas, of course, and New Year's, but it was changed to June, and we used to have it in the middle of the year. Because council, with a number of events around Christmas with carols and Australia Day and other things, it was just too much at once basically for, I suppose, the staff and other things with that closure time over Christmas. Now, the event, sadly, and the reality of it is that it cost council in excess of $50,000. And when you're looking, of course, at the money that we need to find for our infrastructure renewal, sadly, the money, we have to, I suppose, make sure we trim the fat in some places. So, but on the same token, if we were fortunate to have a wonderful sponsor that offered us, the money to run an event like that, we're more than happy. And, we are working on a number of events at the moment to bring some big events to Shellharbour City, but not, of course, at a cost to council.
Mow the grass first.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go on to our fifth question. This is from Paul B. Small. Is the road at the entrance to the Chemist Warehouse and Amart Sports at Stony Range going to be moved or improved, as it is a traffic hazard and an accident waiting to happen? Whoever designed it is obviously doesn't know what they're doing. What's your comment on that one?
Well, I live not far from there. That specific complex is owned by Stocklands, so it isn't under council's governance there. So the best bet for the gentleman to do is actually write a letter or approach Stocklands and make direct representations to them.
Next one, last one. Question 6. My daughter, who is 8, is expected to cross Cove Boulevard in Shell Cove on her own. She's not entitled to a bus pass because she's in Year 2. I find this road difficult to cross, especially during school hour traffic. Can you tell me if some pedestrian access is on the agenda for this road?
Yes, that... Just if I could just start with the safety side of things first. As a former youth worker, obviously, I've done a lot of work in the area of child safety. The facts of the matter is any child under the age of 10 years old doesn't have the ability to have good road sense at that age, no matter how wonderful the children are and also how wonderful the parents are in education. And it is recommended that with a child under the age of 10 that there is always parental supervision. So if I could maybe just first of all suggest to mum to see if there's any neighbours or friends and family, if mum can't, that could actually hold her daughter's hand and maybe walk her across any roads for a safety factor, because we all have a duty of care to our children. As far as the bus pass thing is concerned, I can understand the frustrations there from the mum, obviously, with the daughter, with the age that she is. But with that, she can make direct representations to her local member, her local state member, or to the Department of Education. With regards to pedestrian access, there is a number of pedestrian access on that. There is 4 pedestrian access points on that road that the mother and the little girl can take.
Madam Mayor, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Goodham.
Thank you. And if anybody else has questions for our Mayor, please, wavefm.com.au.